if they expect me to walk away from Luton with nothing, I'll make very sure there's nothing to walk away from.
Hello and welcome back to the Oak Road Hatter podcast, and just like that, the third international break of this Premier League campaign passes. As always, Jamie Castle was following England. Jamie, how was your week off Premier League action?
Yeah, unlike a lot of people, love it. I saw Kieran's fist bump there to you saying that the international break was over, but I had a great time. Only a few hours fresh off a flight back to Luton from Skopje. 3 nights out there, somewhere I never thought I'd go. Following England, Macedonia. It was an experience. I always love going to these road places. And one more ground ticked off. That's my 108th ground in the world I've done now. So Operation 200 is in full force. But no, obviously the game got in the way of a great weekend. But the weekend outside of the football was excellent.
And Kieran Robertson, like me, I'm not as into the international breaks as Jamie is. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. It's quite funny that I fist pumped whilst sat wearing an England shirt, but yeah, fair enough. I was not watching any of Southgate ball over the last 2 games, so don't ask me a single question about how we played. Quite frankly, not that asked. But yeah, feeling good. Glad that club football is back. Who doesn't love club football? It's much better anyway. I'd rather go watch non-league than internationals, boys. Sorry.
Especially after the performance in North Macedonia. We're going to be speaking through the next fixture. That is Crystal Palace at home, a game we're all excited for, as we typically are after an international break. It's got that sort of extended time of previewing the fixture and waiting for it to go ahead. We'll start with some Premier League news that does impact Luton, and that was Everton's point deduction. They were deducted 10 points for breaching financial and sustainability rules. We'll start with this in relation to the Palace game, Jamie. Of course, if that deduction hadn't come into place, I guess the dynamic of the Palace game changes a little bit. Now we're looking to create a little bit of distance between the relegation places again. Do you think that, in your mind, does that impact how we approach this game?
Not in the slightest whatsoever for me. For me, either way, it's a bit of a must-win for Luton. We're a third of the way through the season now. We need to start getting points on the board, regardless of the -10. Both Burnley and Sheffield United are home this weekend in what are fairly winnable games for them too as well. So they'll probably have the same sort of mindset as we do, in terms of performances may be improving from all 3 of us, but we all 3 of us now need to start getting points on the board. I think the Everton -10 is a bit of a red herring. I think if you asked me 2 months ago, I would have thought that they were in danger of going down, but Sean Dyche has done really well, to be fair to him. He's turned their performances around and got some good points on the board. And bar the -10, we're looking a good way towards being safe. I think they still will be safe. I think they're 10 points better than 3 teams in this league. So in terms of Palace, we just have to go out there and play it as if that didn't happen. Of course, it helps us, because if we want teams around us to lose points, then that happens as well. So regardless, just need to win this game. if we don't, then yeah, I think it's going to be a tough month ahead in December given the fixtures. So 3 points is much needed.
Really important fixture to restart the campaign after that last international break. Kieran, I heard Jamie mention it there. I've seen it on social media as well. The term "must win" is already been thrown about. What do you think about that? Is it a must-win game, or are we too early in the season to start considering games as must-win?
I think Jamie's put it perfectly already. Like, you're a third of the way through the season, and if we'd have said it over the last few games, there's been a few times that like, one of us has chucked the phrase "must win" out, and the other one's kind of gone, not yet. Don't know. Yeah, now it is. You're against the Palace side, who we're going to dissect them, we're going to break them down, and I don't think they're that good. I'll be honest. Minus the quality that Eze and Elise have as a team, as a collective, they're not very good. I'll be brutally honest. It's easy for me to say when I've got them in my relegation predictions, but cheers. But more for the Luton side of things, we need points. Like the Everton thing, as fun and games as that would have been to see and go, oh my God, you've just dragged another team into a relegation fight. Jamie said it there. Realistically, are they going to go down? No. Based on form at the moment, if anything, that's going to galvanise them to play even better. And I wouldn't be surprised if they still stay up, regardless of the -10. If you want to play devil's advocate, that sort of scenario could play in our favour, where that could actually cause a downturn in form for Everton. Is that likely, though? Probably not. Equally, do we want to be that team that relies on a points deduction to stay up? No. Stay up on our own merit rather than going, oh, but Everton got 10 points. That's the reason we stay up. No, stay up because we're the better team and we're better than 3 other teams. Simple as.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the response from Everton following that point deduction. As Jamie and Kieran both alluded to there, they have shown very good form. They are a much better side at the moment than when they started the campaign. And yeah, it does make things a little bit more full of drama at the bottom end of this Premier League table. But yeah, we're still, as Jamie says, 1/3 of the season, of the way through of the season. Sorry. Let's talk about the injury situation because there was a few bits to dissect over the international break. Alfie Doherty went off injured against Manchester United, and I guess with him, I guess until we hear team news, you just really don't know the extent. Chio's another one that missed international football with Ireland because of a problem that he's got. And then Issa Kabore, the injury he picked up whilst on international duty. 3, very, very important players. I guess when looking at the situation, Jamie, do you envision that all 3 will be out? And I know it's quite premature to make predictions about whether a player will be too injured to play or not, but looking at when they hobbled off, like Doughty hobbled off at United, Bene as well, did you think they're injuries that will probably last into this next fixture?
I think they're just injuries. Obviously, bar Issa Kabore, we'll come on to. I think Alfie Doughty and Chio, I think they're injuries that are born out of more fatigue than actual injuries. I think Alfie Doughty's been in Dubai with his missus for the last sort of week. Chio, I think for me, is a classic international break injury. You look at Haaland was injured for Norway, but I don't think he really is injured. He's just not risking for international games that, in the grand scheme of things, don't mean too much. So I think, I'm 90% positive that at least 2 of the 3 names you said will start on Saturday. I think Alfie, he's been in the spa, been in the swimming pool on the beach. I'm sure those muscles will loosen a little bit. Chio, I think he's just been running loads over the last sort of couple of months, and he himself needed a few days off. And I think Kabore, question mark, maybe whether he got concussion in that little clash he had. I don't think you can class it as an injury. It's more of just a clash of heads and concussion. So it's whether he falls foul of that 2-week protocol that they put into place. But no, I'm positive that at least two of the 3 will play on Saturday. I think they'll be fine. I think okay, we've suffered from injuries, but I think our medical team are good in terms of pulling them out of the sort of the firing line when they need that rest. So I think international break came at a perfect time, and hopefully, come 3 p.m. on Saturday, you'll see all three of them in the starting lineup.
And when you think longer term, Kieran, we've still got lots of important names to welcome back. Obviously, Sambi Lokonga, he's somebody that I think when we initially found out about his injury, the month of January was labelled as the time to expect him back. Jordan Clark obviously came off the bench against Manchester United. You think he'd be stepping up his recovery over the last couple of weeks, since that United game. You've got Mari Bell, you've got Reece Burke, that both look to have stepped up their respective recoveries, as seen on socials this week. So it's exciting to be able to be in a position where we can welcome important players like that back in the hopefully not so distant future.
Yeah, and it makes sort of the squad depth look a lot less concerning. Like the Lokonga injury was the one that immediately had us a bit like, oh, that's not looking good. And to be fair, when you listed out Doughty, Kabore, and Obene, as you were asking Jamie that question, my brain was going, who plays right back? And I was like up in the stars a bit, like, oh my God, that's not good. But then you mentioned Jordan Clark, so all's well in my brain again. It just gives us options. I mean, that's the key thing, is options. Like when your squad depth is hindered to injuries, it limits your option. It limits that versatility, and more so tactically. Like I mentioned, Clark can play right wing back, but obviously we know him as a sort of a ball player and progressing up the pitch. But if we need him to do a job there, we'll do a job there. But obviously, if you have injuries, it limits that opportunity. So for me, yeah, opportunities gives Rob sort of opportunity to test a bit more as well. Play a Clark at wing back if he needs to for the sake of giving a Doughty a rest. That's the key thing, is if we need to rest these players and give them 60 minutes, not 90, the versatility comes back now. And we have the option to then bring in recovery as well as giving players minutes.
And on the subject of speaking about squad depth, there was a transfer rumour that surfaced this week. It was in regards to Galatasaray defender, I think it was Victor Nelson, Danish international, 25 years of age, been linked with a potential loan to Luton Town. Do you think the centre-back market is somewhere that will be actively searching come January, Jamie?
I think we're going to be searching in most markets. I think where we can strengthen our side, we absolutely will. Osho's been amazing since he's come back, but we know there's the injury question mark. Anderson had a bad injury. Burke is obviously on and off the table in terms of his knee or whatever is wrong. Then on the left, you've got Bell's been injured for a while, and you look a bit light when you lose Bell on that left side. Potts, let's be honest, probably isn't quite up to scratch. So if we can improve on him, then I think we probably should. So yeah, it's something that I can see happening. Whether that's him in particular, I'm not sure. But obviously plays at a good level for a good team in Turkey, right? So he's probably in that ballpark of the players that we should be looking at. There was a few question marks as to whether we can bring him in, but the loan rules is only 2 Premier League loans, but you can do more loans outside of that. I think Burnley have 4 loans because they've got one from Dortmund and one from somewhere else, I think. So yeah, I think the European loan market is somewhere that would be stupid to not look at in January, because I think there's a lot of players that come January. I think top elite teams, if you look at, especially in Italy, like sort of your Milans and your Juventuses, they stockpile young players that are good enough, but they're just in the academies and they keep hold of for 6 months before learning out for the sort of the second half of the season. So that is definitely a market that we should be looking at, because I think that they're players that can add either technical quality in terms of sort of a Chong level of ability on the ball, or have that physical side of it like a Nelson that does. And I think like where Potts lacks for me is sort of physically pace and height. So if we can get a tall, quick centre half from sort of mainland Europe, then why not? So yeah, I definitely think this European loan market is one to look at if we're going to strengthen in January.
And Kieran, let's turn attention back to the Palace game and keeping on Luton for this. What do you expect the game plan to be? Because we've seen Luton be tactically flexible this season. We've seen us stand off and counter and deploy a rather low block. We've seen us get at teams. You look back to Wolves as probably the standout one where we pressed high, for the entirety of that first half and beyond. Do you think we can expect a similar kind of approach to that Wolves game where we are up in the faces of Palace? We are the ones asking questions with our press and really taking this game to a Palace side that are sitting wherever they're sitting, 13th, I think it is.
Yeah, and I think that is the approach we need. That's the approach we need to adopt when we're at home. Like there's certain teams like a Liverpool. Obviously, we didn't do that and get in their face as much. There was times where we did, and we were in control for periods of the game. But Palace are a team that you can get at. Like there isn't any. They're not a counter-attacking side for me. And I think if you were to flip the script and say if Palace were coming at us, I'd be confident in our defence that we'd keep it solid at the back. Whereas for them, I'm more confident that we break through their defence as opposed to the other way around, as in terms of having us in their faces. So for me, from minute one, we need to probably, dare I say, for one time this season, assert dominance, but do something with it. Because at Wolves, we asserted dominance for a lot of that game, and we did absolutely naffle with it half the time. This is the change now, is if you apply that same mentality as the Wolves game, you're going to get results if you finish your dinner. That's the missing thing, is we had everything but the end product that day. It felt like we couldn't even hit a barn door, and we had to get a penalty to get a draw, whereas I think the result will be a lot different on Saturday.
And Jamie, just looking at Palace in a little bit more detail, they sit 13th at the moment, 15 points, potential to be dragged into the relegation battle, but no immediate danger looking at it as it is. Scored 12 goals, conceded 16. Goals scored there in amongst the sort of bottom few teams. Do you think, like sort of the question I posed to Kieran, do you think that makes them a team that are gettable from the get-go? Similar to Wolves, where we evidently were told that the players were told to get at them, press high, force mistakes. Do you think that's the way we go about this to win? Or do we sort of deploy that kind of thinking where we choose the right moments to press to sort of appreciate the quality they have?
I think they're definitely a team that we can get at, and sort of going back to that must-win bracket. Okay, yeah, they're on 15 points, but it's a 6-pointer so far as beat them on Saturday, then they're only 6 points ahead, and they're sort of getting dragged back into the battle, right? So that these sort of games are important to not let too many teams get out of the mix, because if you do, suddenly if you have 5 or 6 teams that are 10 plus points ahead of you, then that's really difficult to claw back. So that, yeah, I think in terms of their points, you do need to get at them. I see Palace as a side that keeps it fairly tight and hits a team on transition. I think their players are very much that their strengths are transition. I mean, they signed Lerma from Bournemouth, and I think his one big strength is in transition, box to box. He carries it really well. In terms of ability up top, Jordan Ayew, Eze, Schlupp, Elise, then the two forwards, Mateta and Edouard. I think they're all sort of sharp, quick, attacking players in transition. Probably not, bar Eze and Elise, who do have the quality to I guess penetrate from sort of having the ball. I think the others are a lot better in transition, running and driving at players. So I think we will be aggressive and be front-footed, but we just need to be careful to not leave that back door open, and when and if we lose the ball and they turn it over, to not be exposed on the counter, because if we do, that they could be lethal, especially with Eze and Elise, who I think Eze in particular, obviously because he's English, I think he is very close to that England team, and probably Elise not too far away from the France side either. So I mean, in terms of the back four, I think Anderson and Gay. I mean, Gay plays for England, right? So he's got all the ability that that he's shown at that level. Anderson as well, Denmark. So 2 very good centre half. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think we do need to get a little bit like the Wolves game, and I think we've improved a lot more than that. So it'd be good to see. I think if we play that Wolves game again, I think we do win that. I think we have the quality in that final third, or we're growing that quality in the final third compared to what we had back then. And I think we win that Wolves game if we play it again now. So hopefully this is almost our second chance to sort of right those wrongs and get the 3 points. And it would be nice to go into the break at half time, sort of 1-0 up. I mean, I think it'd be a tight game regardless, but if we can go into the break 1-0 up, that would be huge. And I think it would be difficult. I think we're a great side when we're up in the lead. Obviously, Liverpool pegged us back with equaliser, but that's the side of Liverpool's ability. And I think if we go 1-0 up, I think we're very difficult to break down. So yeah, I just hope that we can start strong and sort of right those wrongs of the Wolves game.
And Kieran, going back to what Jamie was saying there about the attacking contributions and sort of the key personnel that Palace have going forward, it's very, very difficult to look past the duo he mentioned, Eze and Elise, but both of them are recently returning from spells on the sideline. Eze has played a couple of games, I think, off the bench, the last sort of 2 games before the international break. Elise, I think, just the one. Do you think, with both obviously still in sort of the more advanced stages, but in recovery, does Kenilworth Road is Kenilworth Road a destination where it's difficult to come to when you're trying to rediscover form and fitness?
It's difficult for any player. I mean, I forgot Mo Salah even turned up a few weeks ago. So if Mo Salah's struggling, I don't think Elise and Eze are going to have an easy sort of walk in the park in that sense, recovery or not. I think you could use that as a reason for them not necessarily performing well. But I think when they've had the whole international break off, like their recovery's gone at this point. They're done. They'll be starting on the weekend, I can fully imagine. It's just like I said about Liverpool, the one thing that we did so well was your Nunez, your Jota, your Salah, just frustrated them. Just didn't give them the space that they're used to and put them under pressure when a lot of players don't. Like, there was quite a few times Salah, even though I said that about Nunez and Jota, Salah was allowed to have the ball almost. Like, we almost kind of went, there you go. And he kind of was like, oh, all right, now what do I do? Because then instead, we kept our shape rather than forcing ourselves to go and press it. We were like, yeah, you can have the ball if you want. And we kept the shape. And then because we kept the shape, he had no one to pass to. So that's why he was getting frustrated. So it's the same thing with Eze, same thing with Elise. Block off the channels they want to pass into, block off their target men, and they're just going to stand there like a headless chicken and be like, where do we go from here? Frustrate them. That's the key thing. When you come up against these elite level players, whether it's for a Palace, a Chelsea, or whoever, frustrating. That's all you got to do is put them off their game, because teams like Palace do rely on those world-class performances from these players. And if they don't get them, the quality isn't necessarily going to come from a Jeffrey Schlupp or another player, or at least they're going to find it harder to find that level. So if you take that level out of that player just by frustrating them and putting them off their game, that's one battle already won.
Stick with you, Kieran. 76-year-old Roy Hodgson comes to Kenilworth Road. Are you a fan of Roy Hodgson?
I just think he's a dinosaur of football. As a football coach myself, he's just... I'm going to turn the tide, actually. I was having this conversation with my dad after United and stuff, and it's the same stance that I had at the start of the season, and it's why I put them in my relegation candidate, is if you have a progressive manager in Patrick Vieira, who you've given time to, he's not done a bad job, he's brought in really good players, and then you sack him in January. The idea of having Hodgson between January and May as an interim manager whilst you find your long-term manager makes perfect sense. And no one would argue with that. But they got to May and went, well, we've stayed up again. Let's give him an extension and let's keep him as permanent manager. That just screams laziness to me. And in history in the Premier League, you've seen a lot of teams They scrape by, and then the one season they get lazy, bang, they're gone. And this is what I feel sorry for Palace fans a little bit, and that's the angle I'm coming at. It's not because I have this passionate hatred for Crystal Palace or the fact that Roy Hodgson just so happens to be a down the M1 idiot. Just why would you do that? Like, why would you market yourself as such a progressive football team and a progressive football club, and then you hire this dinosaur of football? Like, those sorts of managers, their time is done. That time of football is gone. These are the sorts of managers that look at football and they treat it like old people treat technology, where they stare at a computer and go, "Oh, bloody hell, I don't know how to use that." But they've never tried to evolve and adapt with the times. Roy Hodgson screams that sort of manager. And like I said, if you're complacent for too long in this league, dun, 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 you're going to slowly drop. He doesn't scream the kind of play. You saw his comments about academy players, and yeah, he retracted them afterwards. Shock, because he got called out on them. Donkey. But comments on academy players. Do you trust that man to then bring in the next generation of player for Crystal Palace? No. Look at what Vieira did. Bought in Doucouré, bought in Elise, bought in Eze. These are the sorts of players that Vieira was nurturing in his management and bringing in that caliber of player, that sort of, don't want to use the term wonder kid, but you kind of get the gist if I use that term. Roy Hodgson ain't bringing in no wonder kids. He's going to bring in another 10 Joel Wards probably. And yeah, he's a Palace stalwart, but you get the gist. Like, it's why I've got him in my bottom three, and that might be quite rash for this season. But you got to be bored of finishing 12th every year, or 13th, or 14th every year. That must stink. Like, yeah, you're in the Premier League, great, but you're not having any success anywhere else. That's bloody boring. What a miserable life. Christ.
I don't know about you, Jamie, but I don't think Kieran has a liking towards Roy Hodgson after that.
Do you think
Just something in it.
I thought he was very positive about Hodgson, to be honest. No, I mean,
To be fair,
that's another 2-3 minutes past. Cheers, Kieran.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, Kieran mentioned his stint at the club down the road. I mean, I'm quite fond of his time at Watford, to be honest. I think it was full of memes, and I guess the one I remember vividly was the time that he lost at Palace with Watford and started doing a lap of honour at Selhurst Park and started clapping the Palace fans.
I forgot all about that.
Whilst going there and losing with Watford, and he had them absolutely raging.
But the best thing about that, actually, and I remember it so vividly because they'd just been relegated, hadn't they?
I think so.
They were already down going into that game. And it was just like icing on the cake, rubbing salt in the wound. And he's gone to his former club. He's just like, yeah, love you lot. Yeah, mwah, mwah, love you. Looks at the Watford fans and goes, oh,
yeah,
love it.
So cheers for the memories, Roy. It was amazing. Thank you, mate.
He'll be going longer than Warnock, mate. Warnock's going to, like, Roy Hodgson will retire probably in his 80s, and Warnock's going to look at that and go, I've got a few more years left, Sandra. Don't worry about it.
Battle of the Titans. Let's go on to some score predictions for Saturday's game, and I'll start with you, Jamie.
I am going to go along the lines of what I was implying earlier on. I think we're going to go into half-time 1-0 and see it out the whole way. So I'm going to go 1-0 Luton.
What about you, Kieran?
Same vibes, but I'm going to be a bit more optimistic than Jamie, I think. I'm going to go with 2-1, and we'll go 2-0 up as well. And the consolation goal just adds to a bit of drama, because when there's Kenny, there's drama. So 2-1.
Not underestimating Palace at all, because I still do think they're a very good side. But I'm going to make it 3 wins from 3, and I'm going to go one better than both of you. I'm going to go 2-0. I think Saturday's got the potential to be a really, really good day for us Luton fans. And you think of recent performances, well, I think they weren't more than 1 point from 2 games. So I'm going to go 2-0, and hopefully hopefully one of us are right, and we're talking about 3 points come Sunday's pod. We're going to head into a short break, but when we're back, we are going to go through 5 Guess the Players. We are back for part 2 of today's episode, and we're going to have a little game of Guess the Player. We've got 5 players in question, past, present. I was going to say future,
Not
but
future.
that doesn't work whatsoever. Past or present players that wore the club's colours. I'm going to give you their first club, and you can guess from that point who I'm talking about, and then I'll continue to give you their clubs. If you get it on your first try, you get 5 points. If you get it second try, 4, so on, up until 1 point, and then every club past that, it is 1 point. Of course, if you want to play along at home, pause it after every one. See how you do. Keep your points tallied. If you do better than Jamie and Kieran, please let us know, because it'll be quite funny.
When you do better than
Let's
me and
go.
Kieran, not if, when.
Hey, all right, speak for yourself, big man.
So we are going to go for player number 1, and the first club I'm going to give you is Newcastle United. Any guesses after that?
I'm not going to guess on this
No,
one.
me either.
Okay, moving on to the second club. This was a loan spell at Carlisle United.
Alex Gilead.
4 points to Jamie Castle. Fair
Yeah.
play. That is a good start. That is a very good start. We'll go on to player number 2. And it's just loading, so forgive me, Mark. So for the second player, we're starting with a player that actually began their career at Luton Town between 2003 and 2012.
Wow.
So is there any guesses based on that?
03 to 2012, so they would have left third season of non-league then. Keith Keane.
5 points,
Yeah.
Kieran Robertson. 5-4. That's a good start.
Kieran's
And I'm
favourite
starting to think,
player.
have I made this a little bit too easy? We'll get straight in with the third player. Again, these are players, could be past, could be present. We'll start with Germinal Beerschot as the first club of this player.
Oh, God.
Any guesses after that first club?
Are they a German team?
I think they're Belgian.
I'm not going to tell you, just on the fact that I just don't want another 5 or 4 points. I want to see you struggle.
I think they're Belgian or Dutch.
They're definitely not Dutch.
Okay, pass.
Yeah,
Okay.
likewise.
Ready to hear the second team?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
OH Leuven.
Oh, my word.
So they're definitely Belgian.
Yeah. Belgium.
Was it someone like John-Louis Valois? Obviously, I think he's French, right? But he may have gone to Belgium.
No. So that is Jamie out of that round until we hear the next team. Kieran,
so it's like a one life thing. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Oh fucking hell! Okay.
You learn on the job, mate. You learn on the job.
Oh, but they guessed if I knew that.
Pass.
Okay, so Jamie is back in, and we're playing for 3 points here. Anderlecht.
Oh, my word. Some Belgian journeyman going on here. What pains me what pains me is it's going to be so bloody obvious as well.
Probably
It's
fairly
annoying.
obvious. 3 Belgian clubs.
Oh, for God's sake, Thomas Kaminski.
Kaminski, yeah.
Thomas Kaminski is the correct answer.
I was literally going,
3
I was
points.
going through my head like, what Belgian players have we had? We haven't got anywhere. And oh yeah, shit, Kaminski.
That was exactly my thought. I was like, wait, hang on.
So is that 8-4 to Kieran? Kieran was 5-4 up.
You gave 2 clubs, so that was 3 points. That last one, wasn't it? I was because
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Keith Keane was his first club. Yeah, okay, fine, 8-4.
8-4.
Okay.
Moving on. Yeah, so we'll move on to the next player, with Kieran being 4 points ahead, 8-4. So the first player here, Lincoln City. I love the immediate silence when there's just so many players evidently going through the heads of both of you. Any guesses, Kieran?
No, pass.
We'll move on to Newcastle United.
Lincoln to Newcastle.
Lincoln to Newcastle. Okay.
Then we'll go on. Do you know what? I'll be nice with this one because it's quite difficult. So I'll give you the next 3, but this will all be within the 3-point bracket.
Yeah, okay.
Because it is a difficult one. So there's Bristol City. Went on to Bristol City, Birmingham City, and then joined Luton Town and represented the club between 1984 and 1990.
Bloody hell, mate. No wonder we're struggling with it.
Not even born.
So that is Lincoln, Newcastle,
Even Jamie went out
Bristol
the womb at this
City,
point.
Birmingham, and then between 1984 and 1990, played for Luton Town.
So it would have been in the Cotman inside.
Where's my dad when you need him? Christ. Thing is, we could both take a punt at like a starting 11 player from the Little Woods Cup here. And probably
I'm going to go for someone like a Les Seeley.
Okay, that is wrong.
Okay.
Kieran.
I feel like trying to think of like a rogue answer, like a Danny Wilson or something.
It's not Danny Wilson. So the next move was to Derby County from Luton.
Didn't Mickey Arthur go to Derby?
You locking in Mick Harford?
Yeah, I'll go for it, yeah.
Correct. Mick Harford. I didn't know he started at Lincoln.
No idea it was Lincoln. Newcastle makes sense, given he's a Sunderland boy, but yeah.
It was the second that you said Birmingham and then went Mickey Harford. I'm like, fuck. It just like the link just connected in my head then. Like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, in my head, I don't think I would have got it until Derby. I think that's when it would have connected.
Even then, I was still a bit stumped, if I'm honest.
But for me, hesitant. I don't want to look like an absolute like dickhead. So I was a bit like, oh, I'm sure we went to Derby.
Equally, looking like a dickhead. We weren't even out of the womb at that point, so I think we can be excused for. Oh, I didn't realise that Mick Arthur played for Lincoln City in the 80s.
Yeah, I think the first one's fair, but I think we probably should have got that he played for Derby after Luton, given he's a legend.
Give or take.
Okay, so is that 8-6? Is that 2 points for Jamie there? Okay, into the fifth and final player. We're starting at West Ham United.
Penny Panzu.
No, Kieran.
Picks one of the several West Ham players.
I have like 4 players in my head. Oh, that's annoying. I mean, I'll just throw one out there. I'll go with Ollie Lee.
Well done.
Fuck's sake.
Well done. That is
Genuinely, I was like Ollie Lee, Elliot Lee, George Moncur, and Dan Potts all floating in my head, and I was like, I need to pick one wisely because the next club will be obvious.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it's quite difficult because then there was loan spells at Dagenham, Redbridge, and Gillingham.
Ooh.
Then a move to Barnet, then a loan from there to Birmingham City, then a permanent move to Birmingham City, loan to
What,
Plymouth.
Ollie Lee?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
He was well travelled before his Luton Town tenure
Christ.
started.
I'm glad I guessed that right because I would not have got that. I think maybe when you mentioned Gills, I might have,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Christ.
So to be fair, there were some difficult ones in there that I thought you'd struggle with, but you got quite easily. Yeah, I'd say you've done well. Everybody else doing this at home, let us know how you've done. If you enjoy games like this as well, let us know. We'll try and do more. We've done a couple of different things now the last couple of weeks. Always trying out new little games to try and make Jamie and Kieran look like the mugs they are.
And
but that's it.
And I think the one thing we've learned, Bill, is that Paul Mully isn't the best barometer of how tough a quiz question is. So sorry, Paul.
I'll test it all on I'll test it all with my dad first, and see if it passes the test. I won't be doing that again. That is for sure. Well, that is all for today. A big thank you to the pair of you for joining, and a big thank you to everybody watching or listening at home. Of course, Saturday 3 p.m, Luton Town return to Premier League action against Crystal Palace. I cannot wait. Should be another fantastic occasion. Until the post-game reaction and analysis, it is goodbye from us, and we'll speak to you then.